Did you hit start? Was I too early? Are we
You're good.
live? We're good?
You're right on time.
All right. Roll call.
Mr. Golis,
Here.
Mr. Vukovic, Mr. Andrews,
Here.
Mr. Reed,
Here.
Chairman Rowe.
Here. All right. When I call your appeal order, just make sure you step up to the podium, state your name and your address, give us a little bit of additional information about the appeal, and we'll go from there. So our first appeal is A29-21, appeal of section 2019 RCO 309.1 relating to floor surface. Location is 4601 Pickle Road. The applicant is Brad Morrison.
Brad Morrison, 4601 Pickle Road.
And just give us a little background on why you're requesting the appeal.
Well, I don't want to put a concrete floor in my building. We have 22 inches of grindings underneath it already from an elevation standpoint to get it up, so we could run all the storm water, off into the drains that we put in. Essentially, I would like to, chip and seal the thing in the inside. I think the precipice of this is to keep any maybe hazardous materials from infiltrating the soil. I think the grindings probably handle that, but it's probably $100,000 floor in there. Not trying to get around anything. I just don't think I'm going to really have anything leaky in there. My neighbor's putting grain wagons in there, and just, I don't want anything outside anymore. A lot of the stuff that was over on the corner, trying to get materials inside of it. Just a lot of my own junk. Plus we tore down the barns on Route 2 and moved a lot of that stuff over, and it sat outside. So, we're obviously not trying to thwart anything as far as, certainly don't want any, we own all the farm property around there, so we certainly don't want any hazardous materials getting into that. So that's kind of where I'm at.
And the reason this is an issue, because it's not ag. If this was ag, we wouldn't be here.
Well, we wouldn't have any jurisdiction if it was ag.
But he could easily split his property and it could be ag and we wouldn't be here.
It's not the zoning, it's the use.
It's the use.
But I mean, if it was an ag building, we wouldn't be here.
That's because we wouldn't
Correct.
take a permit for it. Right.
Okay. So the guy across the street on an ag parcel is storing a grain piece of equipment in there. It has no floor. It's not an issue, but across the street, because it's not an ag
Yeah.
zoning.
But
Okay.
you have to understand, and we don't know why egg properties are exempt anyhow. Apparently, we don't care about the people working in the buildings.
Okay.
So we have no life safety. We don't care how it's built. So don't ask me why egg buildings are
Yeah.
exempt.
Because
Just-
farmers have powerful lobbyists. That's why.
I'm just
Okay, I'm just
trying-
clarifying
that-
it for you.
But that's all my take on it is, if this was rezoned and to be agricultural, and this is an considered an ag building, then
We don't care how
null
it's
and
built.
void issue.
We don't care if they put a 2x4 up that spans 35 feet.
Okay.
Okay.
So the same way with an EPA issue with leaking of fuel, if their tractors leak, same deal. We're not concerned with that, but we're concerned with a truck leaking. Is that?
Well,
if
I don't know
that's-
what any EPA requirements are, but we're not in charge of those.
But I mean, if the purpose for the solid surface floor is to run off hazardous diesel fuel, oils and stuff. whereas
Well,
a farm
What
building-
the code says is to facilitate the movement of combustible materials towards the door now. So it talks about sloping,
Correct.
it talks,
Yeah,
so.
because you don't take, even in a residential situation, you don't slope this to a drain. You slope it right out to the door, which goes out to the yard
Well,
anyway.
Yeah,
So
again.
it's more for fire, not so much for pollution of the soil?
I don't know why it's written that way, only that it's written that way, I
Does it-
assume that that if they're talking about flammable liquids and they want it to facilitate to drain to the outdoor, they don't want it in there for the occupants. I would assume.
I mean, this is not an occupied structure. This is storage of equipment. That's it. It's not operating.
Cold storage.
Right.
Cold
And,
storage. building.
and as a building inspection department, we don't have, I'm just telling you what the code says. We don't have one feeling one way or the other.
Okay.
This is Ohio Basic Building Code. It's not city code.
It's not a city code.
Residential Code of Ohio.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, we don't have a stance one way or the other.
I think it's entertaining. One side of the street can be done, build the exact same building, and the other side of the street you can't.
Well, yeah, but you have to understand that,
I know.
that if it's an egg building, it doesn't have to comply to any rules.
Correct.
And it actually can fall down, right?
Yeah,
Because there's no standards, which makes no sense, but
correct.
go ahead.
Nope, you answered my question.
Okay.
All right, any other questions from the board?
I have a question. Are you going to be parking any vehicles or storing any vehicles at all in there?
I'm not planning on it. Since I found out about this, we're just gonna keep everything up front in the barn with a concrete floor in it, just to eliminate, any issues.
You did talk about potentially sealing it down the road, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if you sealed it down the road, is that considered, he's got grindings and then he seals the top coat over top? Is that a hard surface?
Is it a non-combustible surface?
No.
Okay. Well, and I heard Brad wanted to do that. But is that really a good idea? Inside a building, tar and bitch? I don't know. That's, and and I don't know the answer to that, but
Yeah.
if you prefer that, we can make that a condition.
No, I think that was just to kind of answer.
So I guess my question is, if there's no vehicles being stored in there, then why are we here?
Well, that was not my understanding.
Because the code says if there's vehicles, then it has to have a non-combustible floor
Yeah.
that slopes.
Again, that was not my understanding.
Yeah, I think I had told Jim earlier that we were gonna keep some stuff back there, but then kind of to avoid, breaking any rules, we just decided to clear the front one out and put stuff in that.
So there really
Grain-
is,
Grain equipment.
I mean, if there's no vehicles being stored in there, then we really don't have any jurisdiction. We can't do anything.
Unless he wants to cover himself in the event that he
Well,
decides.
I think your findings could be simply this, that he's not parking any vehicles in there, therefore a hard surface is not required. That can be your finding.
I mean, because we're here
True.
we're here for the appeal of the hard surface, basically. Not,
But the hard service isn't required if there's no vehicles, though. So what Jim just said, we could say,
Yeah.
that,
That's a condition of the approval.
right, if there's no vehicles are being stored in the accessory structure, therefore the hard surface is not required. That could just be
got it.
So the condition makes the vote irrelevant.
it really does. So we really don't have,
Well, I think it was appealed. I think you should make a ruling on the appeal, and the condition of the appeal is there. Now,
It's on
Sure.
record.
you also,
We don't have to grade a
cons-
variance.
You also can also look at it as if you feel the compaction is good enough and creates a hard surface, a non-combustible surface, that's okay with me too.
Right, which would leave him in better shape if he decides to put a tractor in there, or decides to put a
That's what I'm
combine
thinking.
in there.
well, the only issue with that is that asphalt's not non-combustible.
I understand, but that's what he's looking for a waiver for in that event. I mean, originally,
Right.
that was the reason for the meeting, right? I mean, you were under the impression he was wanting the capabilities of putting a vehicle in there.
Right.
Correct.
So, but again, if he so happens that down the line he wants to do that, he could follow through with if you feel the compaction is good enough, for the hard surface. You know, it's whatever you guys come up with, you know.
Right. But I mean, so even if we go at it from the point of view of approving it as the impression you had, that I want to put stuff in there and I want a variance in order to put stuff in there, and we make a motion and we vote it down, he can still do exactly what he's saying he wants to do with it now.
Yeah.
Correct.
Then we would have a statement that,
Because it could very well pass.
right,
Then he's
I see what you're saying.
covered both angles.
Right.
Yeah, but you know, I don't have any concerns about the compaction. You can get asphalt grindings compacted well enough to support extremely large commercial vehicles. My concern, I thought it was stone, I didn't know it was asphalt grinding, so I have concern over that because it's not non-combustible.
Correct.
Are those, is that flammable?
Well,
Yeah, I just looked
asphalt,
up the
it's fine.
data sheet on it. It says it is. In fact, it says for firefighting measures, don't use water on it because it'll make it bigger.
So so they actually state crushed asphalt?
Yeah,
Okay, I did not know that.
yeah, that's what I looked up, recycled asphalt grindings and
I mean,
that's,
yeah, it's got
I have concern over that.
asphalt.
Yeah. If it's stone, no problem.
Yeah, it's
But
not-
asphalt grindings, it's not
We could
non-combustible.
put stone on, we could put 4 inches of stone in there. I don't.
Yeah, I would feel more comfortable if it was covered with stone.
We probably would have anyways capped it, just to clean it up and roll it in. I don't like the way the grindings look, but they're free.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
So is it
so I think we,
contingent on if we were to allow it, if it had a non-combustible material like stone, so that he's covered in the future if he ever wants to put a vehicle in there?
well, I think that's what we have to ask the applicant if he wants to try and receive a variance so that you could park vehicles in there in the future.
Basically, right now, if you're doing what you say you're doing, no vehicles in there, you don't even need to be here. However, 5 years down the road, you want to put a vehicle in there, you don't want to be back here in front of us again. We can put a condition on it that essentially says, put in a 4-inch stone base or whatever.
We can
We
do
have
that
to approve
now. I
that.
mean, we're.
Right.
I mean, I think it's worth
And-
going through the motion.
And I think that's the logical thing to do,
Get it approved.
because even if you were turned down,
You can still do
you
it.
still can park, you can't park vehicles in there. That's about it. Okay, so
That's fine.
this would give you the option.
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that.
That's pretty much, I think, what Bill was getting at.
Yeah, I mean, I would go for it.
Before we head down that path, how thick of a stone topper could you put on there without screwing grades up and doors and things like that?
We held it down because we weren't sure what was gonna transpire. You know, I just spoke with Jim about it and wanted to make sure we were doing it right. And then once he told me the restrictions, that's when I said, for the 3 or 4 trucks I got back there, they could just go inside. But probably
mean-
4 inches. We could just,
I mean, you have a bulldozer, you could make it 6 if you wanted to in
Yeah.
a minute,
yeah, we can
use
just,
it for driveway fill.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you could just drag it outside.
Yeah. And we need some outside. I mean,
You
I
could
don't.
lose it outside.
We probably would have done that anyways. I'm pretty sure before, I kind of like everything to be. I just didn't want to spend more on my floor than I did on the building.
Yeah.
Really just to throw stuff in there so I don't look like like I'm just, I don't want the neighbors complaining about what they see.
Yep.
So yeah, we can put a 4-inch shoe, just roll some 304s in there if you guys are comfortable with that.
And again, it's not, I think it's just built into the condition of it so that you can continue doing what you're doing now. But if you're ever covered in the future, you want to put a vehicle in there, just know that you got to put that stone base.
Yeah, we'll get that done.
I mean, we'll vote on it that way, there's not a guarantee it's gonna pass, but I think you owe it yourself to have it voted on that way. And then you know where you stand at this point in time. And even if it votes down, it doesn't stop you from coming back in 6 months, and if you want to try again, right? I mean, it's. like you said,
Year.
Okay.
But all
Does
you
that
gotta
make
do is
sense?
change it.
So you run it, if
Changes
it
the
doesn't
request,
run,
and you can
then
be back
it's
here
not like
next
you
month.
made a set in stone answer that you can never do it, you can come back again and reappeal in a
Come
year.
back next month and change it. As
Yeah, it has to be different.
Uh,
You can't do the same appeal within 12
Or
months.
So I go from 4 inches to 6 inches and I
Right.
run it again.
4 and
All right.
3/16.
We do it all day.
All right. Any other questions from the board?
Is that what you'd like to do then, Brad? Do you want to
Sure.
try and, okay.
Anybody else here to speak for or against the matter? With that, I would entertain a motion.
So let's see, I'll move that we, I want to state this, that we permit the storage of vehicles in the accessory structure as long as there's a minimum of 4 inches of stone covering the asphalt grindings.
In the omission of the concrete.
And the emission of the concrete floor and the stone floor needs to be sloped towards the overhead door.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Vukitic?
Vote.
Mr. Andrews?
Start with who called it first and then go to the second and then go down the list backwards.
Mr. Golis?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Vukitic?
He's not here.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Chairman Rowe?
Yes. Okay, you're all
Good to
set.
go.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
We will adjourn the Board of Residential Building Appeals at 5:17 PM.
You asked the most questions. You're the big three.
Sorry for dragging everybody in.
Oh, that's
You're
good.
good.
I appreciate you. Yeah.
What do we need to do with,
We're just,
with the final then with the doors and everything? Is it?
the doors aren't, yeah, the doors